Rick Dale built his reputation one restoration at a time. Rusty motorcycles, vintage soda machines, and antique gas pumps weren't just items to him. They were pieces of history he could bring back to life. Millions of fans tuned in every week to watch his skilled hands work magic on these relics, laughing at the banter with his crew and feeling part of the family. But then, without warning, everything changed. The cameras kept rolling, yet Rick, his family, and the team vanished from the show. Contracts, pressure, and unseen conflicts tore through what fans thought was a simple reality series. What really forced Rick to walk away from millions of dollars and the show he built from scratch? Stick around, because we're about to reveal the shocking truth behind the end of American Restoration. And it's nothing like you expect. They're the rise of Rick Dale. Rick Dale didn't wake up one day as a television star. Long before cameras followed him, he was a boy in Las Vegas, fascinated by broken bicycles and forgotten machines. His father once pulled an old, rusty bike out of a dumpster and challenged Rick to fix it. That moment sparked a lifelong passion for restoration. From that day on, Rick spent hours tinkering, learning how every gear and spring worked, teaching himself patience and precision that would define his career. Years later, Rick's small shop, Rick's Restorations, became a hidden gem. Locals came with old motorcycles, soda machines, barber chairs, and even gas pumps, hoping his hands could bring them back to life. Rick's talent wasn't flashy, but it was authentic, meticulous, and rare. See, and then came the opportunity that would change everything. A chance encounter with the team from Pawn Stars. In 2009, Pawn Stars had just begun to captivate audiences with its charm, vintage finds, and quirky family dynamics. When the show needed expert advice on antique items, Rick's skill caught their attention. His first appearance wasn't staged or scripted. He simply knew how to make history live again. Viewers didn't just watch a consultation, they became fascinated by the restoration process itself. The History Channel noticed the spark. Rick had the perfect combination for reality television: skill, authenticity, and a story that felt real. In October 2010, American Restoration premiered, focusing on Rick, his wife Kelly, his son Tyler, and a crew that became almost like a family on screen. And the show highlighted the day-to-day work at the shop, showing not only the restorations, but also the bonds between team members. Viewers connected with these people. They weren't actors, they were craftsmen, family, and friends. The early episodes thrived because the focus was simple: show the transformation of objects, while letting Rick's personality and expertise shine. Fans watched as broken Harley-Davidsons roared back to life, old soda machines gleamed, and antique barber chairs looked as if they'd never been touched by time. The diversity of projects kept the audience engaged, and the crew's interactions added warmth and humor. Rick's stepson, Brettley, and the metal expert Cowboy quickly became fan favorites. Even Rick's brother, Ron, and son Tyler had moments that viewers couldn't help but notice, creating a real connection that felt personal. What made Rick's rise unique wasn't just his skill, it was his dedication. The shop often juggled multiple projects, sometimes 6 to 12 at once, each with its own technical challenges. Every item told a story, and Rick respected that history. Unlike other reality shows, American Restoration initially avoided forcing drama or scripted tension. The audience was drawn to the process, the authenticity, and the human element behind each restoration. Crossover episodes with other History Channel shows, like Counting Cars and American Pickers, expanded Rick's reach. Fans saw him as part of a larger universe of Americana, but he remained the heart of his own story. The blend of craftsmanship, family dynamics, and cultural nostalgia created a phenomenon. Within a few seasons, millions of viewers tuned in each week, and celebrity clients like Billy Joel, Jason Mraz, and David Copperfield brought their treasured items for Rick to restore. Yet, beneath the success, tensions were quietly forming. The same authenticity that had made the show beloved would eventually clash with producers' demands. But at this stage, Rick Dale was riding a wave of admiration, his name synonymous with quality restoration and genuine storytelling. The foundation for both his triumph and the shocking events that would follow had been set. When pressure took over, Rick Dale had built his life around restoration. But the moment the cameras started rolling, the real challenges began. What viewers saw on screen was only a glimpse of the truth. Behind the scenes, producers were quietly shaping the show, often in ways that clashed with Rick's vision. Conversations that seemed spontaneous were sometimes directed, timelines stretched or shortened, and conflicts subtly encouraged to create tension. Fans began to notice small changes. Items that should have taken weeks to restore appeared finished in days. Crew interactions started feeling sharper, more forced. Rick, always focused on quality, found himself under pressure to rush projects, compromising the care he took with each piece. He tried to adapt, but the deeper he went into the demands of reality television, the more uncomfortable he became. The shop had never been about drama. It was about history, craftsmanship, and family. Yet producers pushed for storylines that were increasingly about conflict, who argued, who made mistakes, who failed deadlines. Rick's stepson, Brettley, you're the metal expert cowboy, and even his brother Ron were caught in scenarios that didn't reflect reality, but made for television. One day, Ron would appear as if meeting a customer for the first time, even though he had been working with Rick for years. These moments puzzled viewers who knew the crew and raised questions about authenticity. Another tactic that frustrated Rick was the substitution of items. When a restoration failed, or a machine was beyond repair, producers encouraged him to swap it with a similar item and present it as the original. For someone who had spent decades honoring the history of each piece, this felt wrong. Yet, he had little choice. The network held creative control, and deadlines loomed. Every episode became a balancing act between honesty and entertainment, with Rick caught in the middle. Even as the show's ratings soared, some episodes drawing more than 6 million viewers, Rick's personal satisfaction plummeted. He watched as the network celebrated the numbers while subtly undermining what had made the show special. The humor, warmth, and authentic family moments were being replaced with manufactured conflict. Fans complained online that the show felt different, that they missed the careful restorations and the genuine crew interactions. Reviews from professional restorers highlighted mistakes being glossed over, colors repainted incorrectly, and original parts replaced unnecessarily, all in the name of faster production. Rick's frustration reached a tipping point when he realized that his craft, the same skill that had built his reputation, was being treated like a prop for a drama series. His team, once proud of their work, was now performing under the lens of entertainment. The deadlines were unrealistic, the scripts rigid, and the network's vision conflicted with Rick's own values. Each restoration, once a labor of love, became a task dictated by ratings, not by craftsmanship. The turning point came quietly. Rick began to weigh the cost of continuing under these conditions. The money was tempting. Reality TV stars on successful shows earned tens of thousands per episode, but the personal toll was mounting. He was losing control over his shop, his team, and the very process that had made him famous. The pressure wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. affecting relationships within the family and the crew. And yet, Rick didn't give in. Every conflict, every forced scene, every manipulated project added weight to a decision he would eventually make. One that would shock fans, end a beloved show, and change the course of his life forever. The breaking point. Rick Dale had always measured success by the work he created, not the applause it received. Every restored Harley, every vintage soda machine, every antique barber chair carried his pride. But over time, the applause of millions of viewers clashed with the growing dissatisfaction inside him. What began as joy and craftsmanship had turned into frustration, a feeling that every day at the shop was now dictated by scripts and deadlines rather than skill and care. The cameras kept rolling, but Rick's passion dimmed. Tasks that once felt natural now came with pressure. He was no longer simply a restorer. He was a performer, and acting under the direction of producers who cared more about ratings than authenticity. Scenes were staged, timelines compressed, and crew interactions manipulated. Even loyal customers were selected or instructed by the network, making every restoration feel less like work and more like a television performance. Rick's family noticed the change. Kelly, his wife, and the manager of the shop watched him grow increasingly stressed, while Tyler, his teenage son, began to question if the shop was still the same family environment he had grown up in. Brettley and Cowboy, who had always thrived on genuine projects, now faced scripted disagreements and deadlines that made them exhausted. The very people who had once made the show feel real were now caught in a system designed for drama, not craftsmanship. Financially, Rick was in an impossible position. Reality TV stars on shows as popular as American Restoration earned substantial sums per episode, sometimes over $20,000 to $50,000 each. With more than 20 episodes per season, the income was tempting, enough to secure a lifetime of comfort. But money meant little if the core of the work, the integrity of the craft, was being compromised. For Rick, every restoration done under network control felt like a betrayal of decades of skill and care. The breaking point came quietly, yet decisively. After 6 seasons, the network approached him with plans for a 7th. Producers wanted more drama, more staged conflicts, and even tighter schedules, pushing the crew beyond what Rick considered reasonable. They offered higher pay, more exposure, and promises of continued success. But Rick realized something fundamental. The show he had built, the family he had shared it with, and the craft he loved were all at risk. One evening, Rick recorded a short video message to his fans, his hands trembling slightly as he spoke. He thanked them for their loyalty, their support, and their love for the show. Then, with a mix of sadness and resolve, he revealed his decision. He would walk away. He was willing to leave millions on the table to reclaim his dignity, his craft, and his shop. The response from the History Channel was immediate, but cold. They had a successful formula, a recognizable star, and they were unwilling to compromise. Rick's decision meant that not only would he leave, but his entire team, the people who had become beloved by viewers, would be removed as well. The network tried to salvage the show, but nothing could replace the authenticity that Rick and his crew had created. This moment was shocking for fans. Millions had grown to love the shop, the restorations, and the personalities. To see the show end so suddenly, despite record ratings and celebrity clients, seemed unthinkable. But for Rick, it was a matter of principle. Craftsmanship and integrity mattered more than money or fame. By walking away, he sent a message to the industry. No rating, no contract, no network pressure could replace the value of doing work the right way. The aftermath of his decision would ripple through television, leaving the original show as a memory of what happens when art clashes with entertainment. Fans were left asking questions. Why did a beloved show vanish? What really happened behind the scenes? And how far would someone go to protect what they loved most? Rick's choice wasn't easy, but it was definitive. He refused to compromise, even if it meant giving up the life he had built in front of millions of viewers. And in doing so, he became a symbol not just of restoration, but of integrity in a world increasingly driven by spectacle. The disastrous reboot. When Rick Dale walked away, millions of fans were left in shock. But the story didn't end there. History Channel faced a dilemma. The original show was gone, but the brand still had value. Their solution? A bold, risky reboot that would attempt to replace Rick and his crew with multiple new shops across the country. Instead of focusing on one family, one shop, and the daily craft that viewers had loved, the new format featured 5 different restoration businesses. It each had its own team, its own projects, and its own style. On paper, it seemed like variety would engage audiences. In reality, it destroyed the very charm that made the original show special. Viewers struggled to connect with any of the new faces. The warmth, humor, and familiarity of Rick's crew were gone. Jumping from shop to shop created confusion, and projects that once carried stories now felt like random clips. Fans noticed immediately. Social media is flooded with disappointment and frustration. Comments read things like, "I don't even know who these people are," or "It feels like the heart of the show disappeared." The educational aspect, showing step-by-step restorations, problem-solving, and historical context, was missing. Instead, episodes felt rushed, with projects shown before and after, leaving the process a mystery. But even celebrity projects couldn't save the reboot. While stars like David Copperfield or NASCAR drivers brought in interesting items, the lack of authentic storytelling made these segments hollow. Ratings plummeted, proving that audiences valued authenticity and connection over flashy numbers. The show had transformed from a beloved insight into craftsmanship, into a generic, impersonal reality series. Within months, it became clear. The reboot had failed. The magic that Rick Dale and his team had created could not be replicated by multiple shops and scripted drama. Fans mourned the loss of not just the show, but the personalities, the family dynamics, and the genuine restoration work. History Channel learned a harsh lesson. Removing authenticity from a successful show risks destroying the very audience it was built for. Life after the cameras. After walking away from American restoration, Rick Dale didn't vanish completely. He simply stepped out of the spotlight. The shop that had made him a household name closed, but life went on. Rick focused on smaller, personal projects that allowed him to restore items on his own terms. No scripts, no deadlines, no forced drama, just craftsmanship. Kelly Dale, his wife, found new avenues for success. She launched a business called My Best Font Forward Creations, focusing on laser cut and custom embroidery projects. The recognition from the show helped her attract clients, and she even appeared at car events, using her television fame to build something independent. Tyler, Rick's son, continued honing his skills in woodworking, metalwork, and fabrication, eventually getting married and starting his own family. Though he rarely restored vintage items for clients, his Instagram shows a quiet mastery of the craft his father taught him. Brettley Otterman, the stepson who had learned sandblasting and soda blasting on the show, used his exposure to launch CleanWorks Mobile Media Blasting. Today, he runs a successful business with multiple rigs, proving that the skills learned under Rick's guidance could thrive outside television. Even Cowboy, the metal polishing expert, and Ron, Rick's brother, moved on to quieter lives, focusing on personal projects and custom builds. Rick also returned to consulting, helping vintage enthusiasts and collectors while experimenting with metal art. He even wrote a book called Classic Soda Machines, sharing his expertise with fans and collectors alike. Through social media and private workshops, he maintained a connection with the audience, but on his own terms, keeping control over what he shared and how he worked. Despite leaving the show, Rick Dale's legacy remains. Millions of fans still remember the family, the restorations, and the charm that American restoration brought to television. The failed reboot proved one thing clearly: authenticity cannot be replaced. Rick's dedication to craft over fame and integrity over money left a mark not just on his industry, but on audiences worldwide. Even years later, the story of Rick Dale serves as a reminder of what happens when passion meets compromise. He chose the harder path, walking away from a thriving television career to protect the heart of his craft. And in doing so, he showed that true restoration isn't just about bringing objects back to life. It's about preserving values, so family and history. Outro. The story of American restoration is more than a TV show. It's the story of passion, family, and the courage to choose integrity over fame. Rick Dale built a legacy one restoration at a time, only to face the harsh realities of television, where ratings often outweigh authenticity. Walking away wasn't easy, but it preserved the heart of what made his work special. Fans may never forget the laughter, the teamwork, and the incredible transformations that turned rusty relics into treasures. And while the cameras moved on, Rick and his crew found ways to continue their craft, their skills, and their lives on their own terms. The shocking truth behind the show's end reminds us that sometimes doing what's right matters more than money or fame. Stay curious, cherish authenticity, and remember the people behind the work. For more stories like this, subscribe, share, and dive deeper with us into the untold stories of television.